can't vote on approval of the minutes. Um, But I would ask Rob if you could tell us what's going on in your world as far as the bike paths go.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to go through kind of the same list that I had put together for you guys a couple meetings ago and give you an update, starting with the Terrafill section of trail that was completed. I'm probably going to take that off the list after this meeting. Right. I think the most recent correspondence on that was the as-built the contractor submitted to Simsbury. And then, behind the scenes, Simsbury owes me a bill for some of the construction inspection and some other, small items, all of which was within budget. So there's no issues with that. Next on my list was the town center to high school project. That's Lotsett project through Prague. And we had a proposal from VHB for $130,000 to do that design. And just before we issued a PO to VHB, the vendor selection panel was created. And they instructed us to hold off on issuing the PO. And they asked us to send out a new RFP to all the new on-call engineers that we had chosen over this, throughout the summer. So we're kind of back to square one again, but the RFP's out, and maybe we'll get a better price. Who knows? But the RFP's out. It's due January 31st, I think. So we'll have a designer underway in February, barring some catastrophe. And then the same thing for Tyler Street to Rockwell Park. We've got to issue a very similar RFP to all the on-calls. That we'll be putting that out very shortly, probably in the next week. I mean, it's basically just taking the one we did for the town center and modifying it for Tyler to Rockwell. Any questions on those two before I continue?
It's just Tyler to Rockwell. It doesn't go beyond Tyler.
Doesn't go beyond Tyler, correct?
Okay.
Ends at Tyler. The next project, which is kind of the larger project that we just received the funding for this year, the Hartford Town Line up the Griffin corridor to the high school. So I did a site walk with DOT on December 6th. We walked the entire alignment. And I actually drafted an RFQ. It's ready to go. We're waiting for DOT's contract compliance unit to set the minority goal before they give me the green light. It's been over a month that we're waiting for them to set the goal. But he expects it soon. So, with any luck, we'll have that RFQ advertised, in a couple weeks as well. But, it's out of my hands.
So that's where to where?
That's the Hartford Town Line to north to the high school through Capaco, up Tyler Streets, and then west on Park. We're exploring a couple options there, whether we might look at the trolley line or obviously we'd talk to you guys if there's any change from what we submitted, but what was submitted was, up the Griffin line through Capaco, up Tyler, past the middle, into the 330 Park property, past the middle school, and then west on Park Avenue, and then into the high school property out to Crestview.
Does it go from on Cottage Grove from the railroad tracks to Capaco? Or
Yep, pretty much. Is it Goodman Street? I believe we were going to utilize the Goodman Street right away. That's our plan. So and come out by Dunkin' Donuts there, and then run along Cottage Grove.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
So there's something behind there.
there is a little glitch with the piece from Toby Road to the Hartford Town line. The Fed, the feds are funding this, and they don't like trails ending without any terminus, if you will. So like ending at the town line, there's no way for anyone to get to it. So what they're probably going to have us do is end it at Toby Road, and then the Hartford project would construct their side to Toby Road.
Or couldn't it, I would suggest the University of Hartford be a great place to have an intersection. Is that
It
thought
could
of at all?
be, but our
That would
project
be,
didn't cross the town line, the city line. I'll talk to them about it and see if that's an option.
yes,
We're staying on the east side of the tracks with our project. Crossing the tracks is a big deal.
yes, but Toby Road, you could cross.
You could cross at Toby, right? That's true. That's true.
Anyway, but
I'll
just
talk to
think-
them about, it's gonna definitely
I
come up
think
with-
the University of Hartford ought to be included in this.
that would be pretty awesome,
It
actually.
would be
I
a
like
plus
that
for the
idea.
town of Bloomfield because we'd love those guys to come biking out
Yeah.
to their stores and some things. And they probably would like to have access. So that'd be a real plus for town.
Let me, because obviously that still needs more conversation. So let me mention that to him. Who knows? Maybe it would, if it got added to our project versus added to Hartford's, I'd have more confidence that it would get done.
Right. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay. So Town Center to Day Hill Road, pretty much no change on that from what I talked to you guys about last meeting. Just that the deal.
Rob, I'm sorry, I was having a little trouble with the microphone. This is Kevin.
Yeah, hey Kevin.
I just want one quick question on the section you were talking about, the Hartford Town Line or Toby Road, whatever, to the high school.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when this was being talked about, the section from the high school over to 330 Park, at that point, that was the original terminus or
Alignment, yeah, right.
Metacomet, whatever. There was a lot of talk at the time about running the trail behind those buildings, not in front, down Park. And, I think part of what this committee, well, I mean, this committee didn't even exist at that time, but part of what kept happening with some of this stuff is we'd see one map and then we'd see a different map and things would change. Is there have you looked at this? And, because I think there were a lot of people who thought running the trail behind the schools and behind all of this activity made a lot more sense than down Park Avenue. Have you looked at that? And could we have some way of having, could we have a repository somewhere of maps of all of these things as they are currently in existence?
Yeah, I mean, so what I used for the application is the alignment that was endorsed. When the CROG folks came and talked to you guys. I'm gonna pull it up.
Oh, okay. No, I know where you're, right, okay.
Yeah.
So when we were looking at that, we weren't looking at that. I mean, we probably weren't looking at that level of detail. We were looking more at specifically whether it went to Capaco or whether it went on over to the Windsor Town line. So you're right. I mean, I'm not disputing that we endorsed that, but I know that's more of a small change in that. Have you looked at that? Do you have any opinion on that?
I'm gonna pull it up now.
It is behind the buildings.
Oh, is it? I thought,
The only place that goes over Park Avenue is just to cross a bridge at one point.
I did not look at that. I'm just looking at it. Can you guys see that?
No, it's
Try to
behind,
zoom it.
it's behind the buildings. I'm looking at it correctly. It is.
Is that big enough for you guys to see?
It is it's the
Park
The
Avenue.
lighter of the red, not the maroon?
It's correct.
Thank you.
Correct. The maroon is the trolley line,
Right.
but was not, I mean, we're looking at that also, but it wasn't the preferred alignments. The preferred alignment is what we applied for, which is that brighter red.
Well, it keeps going. Yeah, the bright red all the way around, all the way along.
Right. The bright red is what was
Yeah.
in the application. Whoops.
I can't, I've never seen that happen before.
That
That's
easy,
amazing.
right?
That's impressive.
I can't tell.
Well, and David may remember that too. I mean, there was a time when there was a discussion of it going behind this stuff and then coming out and, being able to go down.
There was. So if you go, so Frog still has it listed on their website. And what it was is when we were making the final decision here for discussion, that was presented behind, I believe it went through, it looks like it went along like the high school football, soccer field area behind along Samuel Wheeler Reed, and that line,
Right,
there was a
right.
couple areas that brought it in, one in between the high school and A race was a proposed line, and then coming off like behind Metacomet School and
Right.
down on the far east side of the Park School Complex, 330 Park Avenue. But when you look at the weight of that, when they did the weighted percentages of it, they had an 89 rate in, where the current proposed route that we have right now, I think, is a 91.2.
Yeah, and that's probably just because of the proximity to more houses, I would assume.
Now, the part where there are lots of houses, they go behind it, and where there are fewer houses, the problem is crossing driveways. And so it's better to go behind in the area where there are lots of driveways.
Right, which is what it looks like that's probably why the preferred alignment did that.
That'd be okay.
Yeah.
If that's true, I don't think there are many houses along there.
Right, there's not a lot of houses between that apartment complex and the middle school. Just that, I think just that one house,
Yeah,
maybe
so
two,
yeah.
two.
So that probably is why it gets a better count.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Well, how locked in are we? I mean, on things like that, how locked in are we?
I mean, we're not entirely locked in, but cost is certainly a factor. So, and going through private property requires, takings, which are very expensive. So,
So you're
that's-
happy with what we have right now? Is that?
well, yeah, except that we think the maroon alignment, the one change that I've made from the application, and that actually was prompted by DOT, was to go with this maroon alignment to the left.
That's because that's where the Griffin line is.
Right, right. Rather than go around the right side of Capaco, we thought it made more sense to do the maroon
Yeah,
line.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yep.
And then we did walk the trolley line. The big drawback to that, I mean, we would still connect to the middle school and, social services. But the trail, if we did end up using the trolley line, there's a significant water crossing there. Whatever brook it is.
At Beeman Brook, probably.
Yeah, something that, part of the North Branch, the Park River tributaries. And because the old crossing's been taken out, and so the east abutment is actually missing as well. So it'd be a tough crossing.
So Dave, do you have, I mean, in terms of this going in front or behind the buildings, did you have a preference?
I think there's pros and cons to both sides of it, and I don't mean to want to be the person that's kind of on the fence with it. When keeping it at the proposed route that it is right now, it creates visibility to it. You can see it along Park Avenue as you're going there, and I think that could potentially create increased usage of it. But there's also something to be said about going behind it. That's all private land that's back there, or public land, I should say. You're going along Samuel Weller Reed and it's all kind of looped in that way. And so it's gonna be more of a nature, more picturesque route if you were to go behind it. Um,
You don't think there's safety there? You don't think there are significant safety? There not more significant safety problems going down Park?
That could be on the road. It's gonna be,
Well, I know it's gonna be a bike path, yeah, but
I don't believe so. Rob, I don't know what you have proposed, if there's any type of fencing that's being proposed to go up there, in there. I don't.
I mean, yeah, it's,
I wouldn't think so.
if we were doing a side road trail, I don't think we'd be looking at a fence. We would try to keep it off the road as far as we can, 5 to 10 feet.
Right.
But, you know, going behind those, there's a decent amount of wetlands and,
Yes,
and
yes.
floodplain back there. So
Yes.
that's kind of a big deal too. It's
And-
actually, I don't know if you can see the GIS map that I pulled up. Is that showing up on your screen?
No, we're just still seeing the,
Yeah.
It's the same
But,
one,
but
right?
as you get to Samuel Wheeler Reed, yeah.
yeah.
But
like
that's
two-
fine. I don't want to belabor this any further. I just was sort of wondering where this is, but, you know, I think that if we can, we should do whatever makes sense, and I think connecting the schools is the important thing. And I do agree with Dave that visibility is a good thing. People, I just know out in our area where the trail is now, just being able to, driving by and seeing people out on the trail, it promotes.
important.
It promotes it. It does promote it, yeah. So
It
if there-
does, from like an economic development standpoint and from an overall community standpoint, people like to see people out recreating,
Exactly.
whether they're doing it or not. You know, it's like you take the Philly Park into consideration.
What,
Most people won't put on ice skates, but they will still want to see somebody out there ice skating when it's presented.
driving by is important.
It is.
one interesting item that we picked up on the walk, the preferred route had the trail going down the east side of Tyler Street. And when we were out walking it, we noticed there's a lot more room to get over a stream crossing on the west side. Can you see where there's already a sidewalk there?
Yeah.
And on the east side would require a pretty significant culvert extension. Whoops, am I there? So that I think when we go up Tyler Street, we're gonna, and the other benefit is, we would cross Cottage Grove in front of Capaco with only one crossing. We wouldn't have to cross the Capaco driveway. We'd only have to cross Cottage Grove and then
Oh,
just.
that's, yes, yeah.
And the same, and the same thing when you get up to Park. So we run all the way up Tyler Street. And we'd only have to cross Park. We
Right.
wouldn't have to cross Tyler or the driveway. We would just cross Park and we'd be on that.
And-
Basically what's a multi-use trail right along the west side of the entrance drive.
Yep, and you don't need to cross Rockwell or Dale either.
Right,
to
right.
stay on that side of it.
But you would
So-
also have to cross a Tyler to get to the
You would have to cross.
side path. Yeah.
Yep, you'd have to cross Tyler to get to the Rockwell path. That's right.
But
I-
even so, there's sidewalk on both sides of the street on Tyler.
There is already, right?
Okay, I don't know if I even want to bring it up, but for some reason, like 5 or 10 years ago, when we talked about Tyler, we had we had a member on the town council that lived near, on the intersection of Tyler, and she objected to having a bike path there.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't Stephanie, was it?
Interesting. I don't know why you
Um,
would, but.
Rob, I have a question for you since we're on the topic over here. If you can pull the map up a little bit, just go to the Cottage Grove, if you don't mind, intersection.
On the
On the
image,
map,
the Google
yeah.
map, yeah, okay.
So my only any type of traffic control measures would be part of the plan?
So the DOT has a project in final design right now to replace 6 traffic signals on Cottage Grove, including this one. So all the pedestrian upgrades to the intersection are gonna be done by the department, probably, before our project starts.
Perfect. So I have
Yeah.
to assume that they're going to upgrade that because there's no true, uh,
There's
traffic.
no
crossing.
there's no exclusive crossing there. It's a concurrent crossing. It's
It is, you're still fighting through
very
with traffic,
dangerous.
taking a left in other areas.
Yep.
It's just a poor design right now.
Yep.
Oh, but they aren't talking about roundabouts anywhere there, are they?
Not
Uh,
here,
Not
no,
on this
no,
spot.
just a traffic signal replacement.
And you wonder if they really need that many traffic signals within, for Capaco, there's like 3 or 4 of them there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, that's not our problem.
That's all, yeah, that's a whole nother issue.
You want them there. You want them at that location.
sure.
I say, when we used to have the youth center back at the old building, when we opened it, there were several bike incidents, with our children over the first part of my career at that location.
Wow.
So,
Anything else on that?
I wonder if school system is thinking of this as potentially helping walking to work, walking to school instead of taking, because that's, I guess, something we don't need to worry about.
I think we get in
So-
place, then we encourage it.
Yeah, okay.
Councilman Merritt, that's actually a good point, though. That is something that we should probably get them involved with in discussion. Somehow present something, get into somebody's ear at the school system, because I know we're
Right.
gonna move into one of the other projects over here shortly, and school interaction on these things are key, and we haven't had anything to this point.
Yeah,
So
we can-
I did talk to the superintendent about this project because it touches the high school, obviously, and the middle school. So she's aware of it.
Maybe hasn't thought about the walking to school aspect of it.
Oh, yeah, no, her wheels were spinning when I told her about this
Yeah.
project. She was, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Great.
She
New
was thinking-
leadership, it's important. So hopefully now it's
Good.
a good time to have that discussion.
We also
Yeah.
need to talk to them about bike safety, because I know in Simsbury, the bike committee spends a lot of time with the schools. The police department does too, teaching bike safety to the kids. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, sorry about that.
All right.
How about the other stretches?
So, yeah, nothing new to report on the town center to Day Hill Road. Same thing that I mentioned last time, the departments, DOT's prioritizing the East Coast Greenway and, is committed to funding those projects, whether they do it themselves or if an opportunity for us comes up to apply for funding, they're willing to provide the match like they're doing on this project, the high school to Hartford Town Line.
My main worry is going through the center and how we do that. It's desirable to the bike path go through the center as much as possible, but it's also a problem. We don't know what kind of intersections we're going to have and what they're going to do with the highway, whether they put roundabouts in there, which I hope they do. But that's a lot safer for a bike path to have a roundabout. And but it's hard to pick a route until you know what we're going to do with the highway.
Right, and yeah, with the economic development study going on, I think that was a good point to, make sure they consider the bike alignments, identified by the East Coast Greenway and how whatever they layout they come up with can accommodate a bike path.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep, I'll mention that to John Coleman, by the way, if you haven't already.
good. Was that it?
That's it for trails. I mean, I had, if you want an update on Blue Hills Complete Streets, I mean, which has a bike lane in it, I can give you an update on that, where we stand.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't know if last time we had, the contractor, a low bid contractor approved. I'm ready to award it to this contractor, but as Dave can attest to, DEC, I've actually, DOT actually deposited the money. I've got $1.2 million from DOT that's gonna get deposited into the town's account this week.
Good.
I haven't gotten DECD to say, yeah, go ahead and award the project. And they're not even giving me the money up front. We have to ask for reimbursement. So that's what we're waiting for, but it's not, I mean, realistically, the contractor's not gonna start till April 1st. You know, whether we sign a contract, you know, in January or February, it's irrelevant. You know, the winter shutdown goes until April 1st either way. So that's where we stand there, but it's you know, it's ready to go. And the School Street Complete Streets project, which is, you know, sidewalk and some traffic calming from Cottage Grove all the way up to Wintonberry. I just signed the PO for VHB to get started on that. So you'll be seeing surveyors out there shortly. They're starting to collect their mapping, utility information, getting the survey done. So that project's, the design has started on that.
Can I ask, you're talking sidewalk on School Street, how wide a sidewalk?
Just a 5-foot sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's wide enough from my three-wheel recumbent.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, four doesn't do it. I do not like 4-foot wide sidewalk. It's not wide enough.
While you're on the topic, why not make, I assume you're gonna have concrete sidewalk.
Right, it's concrete sidewalk.
Why is that better than a bike path? There's asphalt. Why isn't that cheaper and more practical? And while you're at it, why not make it, 6 feet? Or
The
8?
town standard is 5 feet concrete sidewalk.
I've been told even that 8 or 10 foot is about the same price as 5
No.
foot of concrete.
No, that's not true. You pay a square foot price, you know, so
Well,
you.
no, a square foot of blacktop versus square
Oh.
foot of concrete.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, obviously bituminous is a lot cheaper, right? But it doesn't last nearly as long as concrete sidewalk.
Yeah, you'll sidewalks on there for 30 years compared to asphalt, where
Right,
you're
and-
start getting even in a matter of a couple of years.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the standard. That's the town standard. That's what we put in everywhere.
So as we talk about the bike path over at the East Coast Greenway, that is one of my concerns with it is, when you go on these now and you start to see them after 10 years or so,
Yep,
that you start to
yep.
see those asphalt, and where's that money gonna come from to replace them?
Well, I
Maintenance is an
have
issue.
to say ours was built much better and it's not deteriorated at all and doesn't have a bunch of trees next to it that are gonna have roots causing things to hump up. I think, but how long's our oldest part been there? Several years now. And there's no blemishes on it at all, which is amazing.
Yeah, it was designed
Except for a
like you
collapse.
said, the not having the tree roots
Except for a
interfere with
collapse.
it is important.
And now there was
Yeah,
an
for sure.
example in South Windsor that I was aware of by the middle school. They had run I don't know, probably 8-foot blacktop from a neighboring street to the school, and then they went to concrete to go around the school. They replaced the concrete and only patched the blacktop in
Oh.
small areas.
Yep,
Of course, I
yeah.
think a lot has to do with how good a base they put in
For sure.
for the long term to keep for blacktop to last.
We certainly need to talk about budgets for this year for sidewalks, because Bloomfield is desperately short of sidewalks. And that should be something that's there under the aegis of our Trails Committee. And I'm wondering if, is that in your budget, sidewalks?
It's in the public works budget.
Yeah, I wonder if we need to push on that to get something done. And our sidewalks, like the desperately needed one along Blue Hills Avenue, is that a state responsibility or is that ours?
The state will only replace sidewalks when they're doing a project. They don't proactively replace sidewalk. They're required to replace pedestrian ramps when they pave, but that's just the ramp, nothing beyond it.
So if we want to, well, they probably are going to redo that stretch of Blue Hills Avenue anyway, because that,
The intersection.
Yeah.
with Cottage Grove? Which stretch do you
Well,
mean?
going north from there,
Yeah,
because it turns into a highway further down. And I would think that that road probably is going to need attention anyway, so. But anyway, I just think we ought to be budgeting more for sidewalks.
yeah, there's I mean, not a lot of sidewalk work has gotten done recently, so there's a pretty decent budget for sidewalk work. And I know the vendor selection panel is gonna make us re-advertise for our on-call sidewalk contractor. So we're expecting to do that.
I'm not talking about repairs so much as I'm talking about
Oh,
new sidewalks.
Okay, yeah,
So like we have we were talking about one on not Bloomfield Avenue, but Tungus.
Tungus, yeah.
Is there one plan there?
So, yeah, that project actually isn't on my list. It probably should be. We have a project to extend the sidewalk from Philly Park to Geisler's Plaza.
Yeah.
And it includes some upgrades to the signal, pedestrian upgrades to the signal. You know, that's a project that's been around for a long time. And that was one of the first things I did when I got here. I finished the design, submitted it to DOT, and just need them to give me the green light to advertise. It's in final review with DOT traffic, and I'm expecting them to give me the authorization to advertise. So that's another project that's going to start in the spring.
Except I assume at this point, that has been extended to the Alexandra Manor. The new apartment, the nursing home that was turned into an apartment complex? That's across from
I mean,
Geisler's?
our project ends at Geisler's. There's an existing sidewalk that continues north for a little distance, not that big a distance.
Well, it needs to connect up with Alexandria Manor. And I mean, maybe there's a little bit there that was, let's see.
Yeah, that project, it's a community connectivity project that was applied for like 5 years ago.
Okay, but where is the little section you're seeing?
So can you see my screen?
I can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you can.
So here you see the old parking lot at Philly Park in the end of that recently
Right.
installed sidewalk. So we're extending it from there.
Right,
If you can see follow my cursor all the way up in
Yep.
front of Midas. And
right.
then we install a crosswalk at the traffic signal and basically connect it to the existing sidewalk. We'll upgrade the ramps, the
Oh,
pedestrian.
and that's on the other side. Okay.
Yep, and then the
Yeah.
sidewalk continues. I think the sidewalk ends right here.
Okay, well, that might work, but to your, where your cursor is now,
Yep,
to the other side,
There's no
that's now, that has just been converted, the nursing home.
yep,
And I mean, to the, right, yeah, right.
right there.
Yeah, that's been converted, that's
Yeah.
an old nursing home, and that's been converted to, market rate apartments.
Yep,
And
Okay.
I think it's being populated. So if we're gonna build sidewalks, it has to connect to that.
looks
I
like
mean-
it will, doesn't it? I mean, the
Well, it's on the
sidewalk.
other side. It's on the other side.
Right.
So
Oh,
people are
yeah.
gonna, so you're talking about bringing that up, which is fine. But we also need, you're gonna build the sidewalk along Philly Park. And the other problem is if you go back to the town center, to the Congregational Church, where that sidewalk, when we moved to town 32 years ago, the plan was that the sidewalk from the Congregational Church would go, all it needs is to go across the cemetery
Yeah,
to connect up with what was at that time Frank's Plaza, because that was a Frank's store in there, not Guy's.
oh, wow, yeah.
So that also needs to be included in that, because we need to be able to go, people shouldn't have to be crossing back and forth these roads if they're on one particular side or the other.
We do need them on both sides, but the other point is we may put the East Coast Greenway on the
Well,
other
we
side.
may, well, we may,
So-
that gets to that other
so
point, yes.
That, it might be, we do that, the other side of the road needs, we need sidewalks on both sides anyways.
Yeah, and we need planning for this. I mean, we're going here and stopping
yeah.
here, and there's this new apartment complex. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I'm not blaming you, Ryan. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I know,
I'm
I
not
know.
blaming you. I'm just
I'm
saying,
listening, I'm listening.
I'm saying this is why we have a planning department. And so we
Yeah.
shouldn't be, these designs should be going, and I understand it's not going to go all the way up to, the intersection with Terry Plains, whatever, but we have an apartment complex there. That's the whole point of walkability. That's the whole point of complete streets,
Does,
you know?
does John
and-
Coleman's department deal with sidewalks?
Well, he should be dealing with this in the plan. I mean, when they, I mean,
Oh, in the town plan.
Right, it should be something that's discussed at the approval stage for these developments, right?
but at the same time, if at the approval stage, and we do have that now, thanks to Bob Dickinson, we changed the TPZ. One of some of the regulations, the plan and zoning regulations, so that new developments have to look at new sidewalks. So far, we've waived everything that's come in.
Yeah, pretty much, I would say so.
But, and I understand, it's like they want, here's a new development. There's a sidewalk in front of it. It doesn't connect to anything. But if there's never a sidewalk in front of it, it's never gonna connect. to
Trust me, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
I-
this is a minor one. I would take whatever you're doing and go back and make sure that the sidewalk you're building on the west side of Tungus connects to Alexandria Manor. And then,
Well, just-
to Councilor Merritt's point, the east side of Tungus still needs to be dealt with, but maybe that's part of the town plan. Maybe that's part of the plan for how the East Coast Greenway, because it's gonna come off of the Griffin line back there somewhere and then
Yep.
come down.
Right.
Of course,
Well, just the project I talked about, it's, the funding is capped. The project is designed, and it's ready to advertise. So, I mean, there's no way to add more sidewalk to that project. It'd have to be another project.
yeah, I think in these cases where you're putting in the sidewalk, you got, on a road like that, it's going to be preferential if somebody wants to ride from that apartment complex to town center. They're gonna ride that sidewalk, and if we ever get enough people on bikes with enough connectivity, there's going to be conflicts between pedestrians and bicycles on a only 5-foot sidewalk.
Yep.
Good
So,
point.
anyway, that's great. Thank you for dealing with that. But I'm wondering who puts sidewalks in the town budget? Is that comes out of your?
Public Works does.
How do I get, can we get a message that we'd like to see another $500,000?
Talk to Dan, do you mind giving Dan a call? He'd be the.
I
the-
don't at all, because I really think it's shameful. Our sidewalk situation is embarrassing. And somebody going to get run over because we had to press the one going on when we just built finally after 10 years, we had it in the budget, coming out of the center. Yeah, Mountain Avenue.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
I
That
mean,
finally got built. I mean, you gotta remember, we have a lot of projects and there's only two of us in engineering running projects. So, the capacity is somewhat,
That's
limited.
always been the holdup. It wasn't the money.
Yeah, right. No,
It's the
that is
engineering
true.
department.
The money's there. You
Okay,
gotta
well,
spend it though.
Can
All
you
Actually,
hire outside help?
that's right. I mean, we can do
Yeah,
that.
right. I mean, to a point, you can, right? You
so,
can.
just one other thing, because you were talking about the traffic calming on School Street.
Yeah.
And the going out for bid. What's the status of the Maple Avenue project?
So that's East-West Engineering, that went to the vendor selection panel. We sent out an RFP to all the on-calls. We got quotes back and, the vendor selection panel authorized us to issue a PO to East-West Engineering from West Hartford, and they're, engaged in that design right now.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
While we have you, I'd like to bring up another subject on the same issue, and that is, I had it on the agenda as somebody's ramp.
Which one?
Didn't I put something in about a ramp? Steve's ramp? I thought I had. Anyway, What, did I, thought I put something in, added something about Steve's rant.
Ride the State.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the boathouse to state house bike ride under new business.
nope, that was different. Anyway, let me bring it up now. We have a big crisis uh, on the bike path because the Griffin line has got to be the way it is now, rails with trails, uh, not just one replacing the trails with a bike path.
Mhm.
This is going to cost tens of millions of dollars extra because there is no use for that railroad being there, absolutely no use. And yet the person that heads that railroad company has a contract
Yeah.
and the federal government.
A brand new contract, by the way. That was just literally just renewed by DOT like in November, December last year.
Stupid.
And I begged him, like, why are you guys doing this? Stop, don't. But you know, the DOT owns it. That's what they want to do, and nobody was talking them out of it.
We actually were, but they just didn't convince anybody.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, I mean, so it's going to be so expensive with that. Fortunately, we had plans for going off the track for
Mhm.
much of our distance. And it wouldn't be that much of a hardship to do it, replace the Griffin line down on the way to Hartford. But it would be a real pain to have railroad trails going north from the center. And
Yeah.
that could be very expensive. We may have to go with our alternate route because of that extraordinary cost of widening that right away.
Actually,
Sure.
Joe, can I just comment on that? Because I think when they looked at those routes, the study, the East Coast Greenway study, I think they did look at the cost of this as a rails with trails project.
Yes.
So I mean, I'm surprised that you think the cost has escalated that much.
Oh, did you see what Hartford had for mine? Huge.
Well, yeah, but there's the 62 million. Yes, there's a very different cost per
That's what I'm
mileage.
talking about.
And there's also there are other issues in the Hartford area that are much more difficult than ours are. And there's also some other connector stuff because they're talking about building the pedestrian bridge that connects to the Riverfront Park. And when that when that announcement first came out, it was unclear what was in that one way or the other. And that's Hartford, that's not us.
And
But it's much more dramatic cost per mile.
I hope you're right, and it wouldn't affect Bloomfield. We're not paying for it anyways. But it certainly is a concern that we're gonna have to deal with. And, but I would like to, we have on Facebook, a group called the East Coast Greenway in Bloomfield, Connecticut. It's a Bloomfield, Connecticut East Coast Greenway. And it's being used for the whole region as on the bike path. Because nobody else has a similar site. And we're going to be putting all this stuff on there. And if you go to it now, you listen to an interesting description by the people in charge of East Coast Greenway. It's a verbal, it was on Simsbury radio station or television station. And it tells everything that's going on in New England, but also mentions our bike path and Simsbury connection, when things are going to happen, what their priorities are. And so it's just too long for me to add it to our agenda here. So, but if you go to that site, and maybe we'll be successful in sending it out to everybody. She's going to send it out to everybody. So I urge you all to listen to that because it tells a lot of stuff I didn't know, and how they're talking about a second route going through Keeney Park. And so that's,
Well, that was our Copaco. That was.
Yeah.
yeah, the other connection. But no, they're talking about doing that simultaneously. So But it's a lot of interesting stuff there.
There's-
That's one of the alignment. I just pulled up the alignment map from the study. And that is one of the alignments going to Keeney Park.
And, no, where it goes from Keeney Park, do you?
I don't, yeah.
I think it goes to the river, I think.
Probably,
Yeah, yeah, you
probably.
you hit the riverfront recapture, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah,
It
there's,
connects there, yeah, okay.
yeah, there's no such thing as a wrong route. It'll get used. But
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
Bloomfield,
true.
regard to the increased cost of rails with trails versus putting the trail on the top of the rail, if there's a cost comparison done of how much additional it would cost to put it beside the railroad, then maybe just say, if it's $20 million more to do it that way, maybe we can buy out the railroad contract for 5 or 6 million.
I know that's.
Still save money.
I don't think DOT is gonna sell it to you.
People, the railroads are a religion, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
Okay, while we have you, do you want to skip over to the, bicycle-friendly community status update? David has that, but let's go to Adams, Hoskin Road, Simsbury Connector, which involves you, Rob.
yep. And Kevin, I was gonna ask you tonight if you had time to walk it tomorrow, but Dan wasn't available.
okay.
But how about,
Yeah, I actually had mentioned to Paula the other day that I need to drive by there. I figured the snow would be gone and I should get in touch with you guys. So.
yeah, I was thinking tomorrow is supposed to be a little bit warmer too.
So that's
But-
gonna wait till our next meeting?
Yeah, well, we'll walk it. I mean, if next week, works for you, let's connect next week. I mean, it doesn't look like we're gonna get any weather, maybe a little bit Saturday, but, I think we'll
Gone,
be, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, yeah, let's keep that on the agenda, but hopefully by the
Yep.
next meeting, we can walk that and you guys have an idea and.
Yep, yeah, all of next week looks pretty good weather-wise, so, yeah, we'll connect.
Yeah, well, actually, if next week looks good, can you check tomorrow with Dan and just see when it's
What
good?
day?
What days
day?
are good, what days are good for him and send me an email and we'll.
Yeah, I
Right
think
along.
next Friday, we were talking about next Friday, does that work for you guys?
I think so, I think so.
Okay, all right.
Well, let's tentatively say that.
On the ride the state issue, I urge everybody to listen to that. What I mentioned that, I guess you're going to get it sent to you, so you'll be able to, that covers that, a plan to, the ride the state, which is what, a couple months. They go from New Haven, up to, and it's going to come through Bloomfield for the first time. And because our Bloomfield is now, our present bike path that we have is part of the East Coast Greenway officially now, which it wasn't until we went through Terriffill. And so people don't have to go over the mountain, they can go through the gorge. And so this group every year bicycles, and they're going to bicycle through Bloomfield to the railroad station, and they're not going to let them bring their bikes back by railroad, but they're going to be able to take the train back to New Haven. So that's a new front. I don't know how long what's going to take, because I always had the idea you'd be able to bike on the East Coast Greenway right up to the railroad station and stick your bike in the train, but I guess they aren't ready for that yet. So that covers the right, unless somebody else has something on the ride to state issue. We talked about the center already. Philly Park. That's new business. Rob, do you?
Yep, we're waiting for a CO from the building department. The contractor has one more document to submit to Dwight, and we should be able to pull down that fence and open up the parking lot, hopefully, next week. But yeah, all the sign offs, I've signed off on it. planning and zoning is signed off, the fire marshal signed off. It's the building department, had one last piece they're looking for. It's hard to believe you need a CO on a pavilion, but you do.
I'm talking about the trail maintenance and.
Sorry, that's
Off-road
right.
trail, yeah.
I'm fixated on the project. So the public works crews were actually in there this week, believe it or not, taking down some trees and doing some maintenance on the park trails. Can't give you really much more detail. We put a new fence up on the back entrance, what's the Job Lot Plaza? Is that right?
Yeah.
That fence was pretty beat up. So we put a fence there, and unfortunately, technically, the easement we have to access Philly Park from the plaza side is exclusively for town employees, not the public.
Really?
Yeah, so I wanted to leave like a man gate or an opening so people could easily get in and out, but they've been managing, they just go around the fence and it hasn't been an issue. It seems like people use it anyway, but yeah, they were out there this week doing some maintenance, so hopefully that's what you wanted to hear.
Well,
Thank you.
the other thing with this though is, this is, well, it says connection on Lost Lake Trail. The other thing with this is back when the library, when the renovation of, Prosser Library was discussed, they wanted, there should be a trail connecting the library to Philly Park. And there's been a question as to whether it would be on one side or both sides, because we own the Riley Lumber, the town purchased the old Riley Lumber
Mhm.
yard, and that's where the parking's gonna be. This was brought up, I don't know, 2 years ago, or probably more recently than that to some degree, but both the Philly Park Committee and the library building committee thought it was a great idea, as did CEC, the Conservation Energy Environment Committee. We didn't have a Trails Committee at that point. Everyone agreed with it. As far as I know, no one, when I've talked to the people, it's always oh yeah, we're waiting, X is waiting for Y, Y is waiting for X. So has anything been done to, well, now that we're getting close to opening the library at some point, getting close to
Mhm.
opening Philly Park, has has that trail been mapped? Has it been put in place?
Not, this is the first I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, that's what I was
Let
afraid
me-
of.
let me point-
See, what,
If I may
what you-
point something out, the Riley Lumber property does not go all the way to
correct.
the
That's,
park.
yeah,
And
there's a
there is
lot,
a
there's a lot of
very,
flood, yep.
there's a flood outlet, which is very bad. It really should be a flood control thing there. Coming down from all the asphalt on the plaza up above there. And and I think that's one of the real problems with the center flooding, or the library flooding, was caused by all that water running off. It should be dammed up in some kind of a retention pond. And that might all go together and give us a way to, a little road to the park. So I think we ought to be looking into that. That's a problem. And-
Yeah, you mean making a trail from the Prosser Library parking lot into the backside of Philly Park? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the Riley Lumber side of.
Yeah, yep,
But
okay.
there's also talk about the other side too.
Well,
Because I think there is an easement, I think there is an easement behind all of those buildings. Because
Well-
when they did some construction a couple of years ago, you could, when they refurbished behind the old hardware store, which is now waiting to be occupied. Yes.
I think there's storm and sanitary easements. I don't believe there's like a public access
access.
easement.
Yeah, we did
Can you
talk,
see?
we did
Yeah.
talk about putting a pathway back there, or even a road, but I think it may be not something that's very.
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's all floodplain back there and wetlands.
And there's private property in a way.
And you gotta cross, can you see my screen? I'm showing the
I
parcels.
see the property there.
Yeah,
That goes with the Ocean State job lot.
yep, that's right.
You do have sidewalk all along Tonks's there as well.
Yep, but we did complete that missing piece finally. This one. Right there.
Call me when you bury the utility lines.
Yeah. I tried to get rid of that.
Okay, thank you. I think enough on that for now. We have plenty of work in the future, so. uh, Can we move to, thank you, Rob. That was great.
Great.
Bicycle friendly community status update. David.
I don't have much of an update. I did talk to Steve Mitchell back in November. Continues to tell me that we are a shoe-in for the project. I don't know if I agree, but I still go stand by the same stance that I've taken on this since we started. I don't believe that we're there. There's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean,
I can add to that, Dave. I mean, I was pretty involved in New Britain's bike friendly application back in like 2014, and the city had put a ton of effort into bike infrastructure, bike programs, education with the school system, community events with the police department, bike racks. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. And I think we just barely squeaked by, the city just barely squeaked by with bronze status. And then tried to apply for silver status, got shot down, and I think wanted to try again recently, and the application was just so over the top. They said, we're not doing it. Just my 2 cents on that.
Okay,
yeah, and thank you, Rob. And so I'm going to do with what the committee would like me to do. I can't, with all the other projects and activities that I have going on, I can't give it all the attention that it needs. But I can give it enough in order to submit an application if that's what the committee desires.
if you can do that, I think that's a good idea.
My recommendation is let's get the East Coast, let's get the bike path that Rob's working on right now. Let's get that going and under construction, and then we can show that there's additional activity that we have. And I do believe that would give us a much stronger case and possibility of receiving it. And I understand why people would like it, but I still don't. And I've asked this to Steve, and he cannot provide a response to me. What is the benefit to the town right now of receiving even the bronze? Do we get additional grant funding that we might be able to go for? Is there anything other than just to show
Steve's all
that we've
wound up on
completed
it,
the
yeah.
application?
You get a sign to put up on the town line.
Also, you get feedback of I believe, of what you can do to advance to the next level.
Sure.
Right.
And it's a good effort, definitely a good effort to go through to see where you fall short, right?
It is, but it's so. I think what it does is we need to, I said this before, and I will continue to say we need to prioritize the projects that we have, and if this is a top project that the town would like us to move
Certainly
forward.
isn't my top project, but it'd be nice to do, but if, you have other things to do, so does anybody else?
And so, Council Merritt, if I could just piggyback on what you said, I promise you, I'm not trying to skirt any type of additional work that goes through. I'm more than happy.
I'm totally sympathetic.
No, I understand, and I thank you for that. I just feel the need to say that on my as well.
Steve has been leaning on us, and
He has.
he's hard to say no to, but
He is.
On
And
the spectrum.
I think Dave and I were just volunteered to spend a decent amount of time on this All-American City application too.
Yeah.
which is good, which is a very similar process.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe you can work on both together and make it same one.
so, you know what,
State
Councilman Merritt, that would actually be, because it's a lot of the same parties,
group.
same initiatives that you're gonna have that they could piggyback off of one another, but
Yeah, it's an initiative that would give us points on
There
it.
you go.
Um,
So,
Dave, with the bicycle friendly community thing, I know that when Steve Mitchell has come in a couple of times, one of the things he's mentioned is the training part for, they do at the fourth grade level. I mean,
Mhm.
th- when does that have to be instituted?
so what do you mean at the fourth grade level?
Well,
So,
no, he'd mentioned that I think part of the thing with that application is training your youth to be able to ride bicycles and so forth, which is great. It's a great thing. And he talks about, you rent these bicycle vans, they come in for a month and you can use them and all that stuff. But does that have to be instituted? I mean, how critical a piece of that is?
Well,
oh,
that's what,
these are my takeaways from this here, and this is gonna go into what you're saying here. So for encouragement, you need to have community programs, up-to-date mapping, routes, encouragement, bike clubs, youth clubs, access to bike equipment, and bike advisory committee. So, and that include, and then education is bicycle education at, I don't believe it specifically says that it has to be at the grammar school, but I believe that that would be a feather in the cap. You'd want to institute it at that level there. Safe cycling programs, adult education, and education resources. So these were a bunch of the takeaways that I had. And to this point, we don't have any of that.
that's
We have
really,
some bicycle, we have Octagon, which would be a feather in the cap. We could get them on board with this.
the fourth grade program that we had in South Windsor, where all fourth graders go through the program. I don't know, like 3 different days, for 3 hours a shot or so. But anyway, I believe that's what really got our bronze in the first place, because we
Yep.
didn't have a whole lot else going for us.
certainly when we
And
have
we were
a
kind of
bike
first
path
in the
connect-
state on that.
when we have a bike path connecting the schools, it would make sense to
Yes.
have this program. So
Mm.
I would ask you to continue working on that project without a deadline alongside the All-American City project. And so there's certain efficiency to do both at the same time to the degree that makes sense. And,
What-
and that way,
I think would go a long way, Councilman Merritt, is if, and I would be more than happy to be on your side with this here, to reach out through the manager to see if you could have it organized, get into discussion with the superintendent. And I think that you, as the chair of this committee and as a council member, would have a lot of weight going into that conversation and talk about some of the initiatives that we want to have. And then once you introduce the conversation, then it makes it much easier for me to do my job on something like this.
I can certainly do that. So maybe I need to talk with you a little more about what exactly you want me to do.
I think that would be wise.
I'm having a lot of luck dealing with the town manager. And I also wouldn't mind dealing with the Board of Ed. So it's
And that goes back to the earlier comment about when we put in the section from the high school, et cetera, to go by the schools, but to also start thinking about transportation alternatives, which goes along with bike safety. I mean, it's all tied together, and I think that's a great idea.
How many fourth grades do we have in Bloomfield?
couple hundred kids,
Pardon?
couple hundred kids.
I don't know how many fourth grade classrooms that they have, but they're all located at Metacomet School.
Yeah,
Had a comment,
because
Adrian.
South Windsor, they bought their own trailer and bikes, because it's, when you got a schedule for that many classes, you're gonna have,
I think Steve has a.
the rental is pretty expensive, and then scheduling it for the time you want would be a even bigger problem.
Yeah, so, we'd have to get it, that's why the superintendent, to get the superintendent and superintendent start there and then hopefully bring the principal involved into that conversation, because that's really where it needs to be kind of stemmed to do. And I believe that it should be an overall presentation, like some of the stuff that we talked about this evening with the Greenway connecting here to 330 Park Avenue. That's on the same campus. It benefits our school age children.
And the effort should, by the superintendent would be to get some of the phys ed teachers qualified as bike trainers. There's a certification, a weekend program that they get certified.
Correct. And now would be a good time to have that conversation. You got to think that there's going to be budgetary impacts if they're going to put something like this in there. My guess is the Board of Education is already well on their way to the budget at this point, so it may be a little too late for going into next calendar year, for next school year. Because I believe that they need to have it to the town manager's office by either the end of this month or the beginning part of next month by charter, I believe.
Well, let's talk about just without a deadline for this year or even next year.
It should be an initiative for us, to something for us to strive
Yeah,
to, and then
yep,
we're ready to go
yep,
for it.
yep.
Let's go for it.
Yep.
And I strongly believe that it would be great to have. We need to be ready for it.
Okay, so let's do the groundwork now and move efficiently towards it without any deadline.
It's more important to have what it would take to get that certification than it is to get the certification.
Correct. Absolutely.
It's true.
Thank you.
So Councilman Merritt, this week going into next week is probably not the best for me, but maybe near the latter part of the month, would be a good time for us to sit down.
I'd like to, yes. Good. Okay, we're doing very nicely. We have a public person here? They didn't show.
Yeah, they left.
Oh.
Oh, Paula.
Public person. You have any comments?
No, good meeting, and it's nice to get caught up on the initiatives, because I hear bits and pieces of this, especially in the Parks and Recreation Committee meetings, because I'm on that committee, and Dave brings some of these things up, so, thank you.
Okay, then, if somebody would,
Counselor Merritt, did you want to see about meeting at 6?
yes, thank you for bringing that up. Would it be convenient for everybody here to meet at 6 instead of 6:30?
A little more convenient.
Okay, so, I mean, a number of you are sitting here already at 6 o'clock from another meeting, so is that okay with you and David, Rob?
Yeah, no issue with me.
Okay, from now on, we'll be at 6 o'clock instead of 6:30. And I guess we'll have to put something through to our program thing.
Be flexible if CEC goes over 5 minutes, we're 5 minutes late.
Oh, no, we'll just kick them out. That's okay.
It's a good incentive.
Good luck with that.
They need a deadline.
Public comment, we'll just have to be we'll have to be efficient and be done by 6. It's a good thing.
But, so that's okay. I have to get some more counselors obviously involved here because we can't even vote on the minutes. I had 2 of them promise to show up and they didn't, so. I'm gonna try to get another councilman person to sign because we should have 3. And although it's been pointed out, anyway, we don't have a quorum anyway, so that's it. So do I have a motion to adjourn? I move we adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
Under Robert's rules, the chair has the right to.
Adjourn. I can leave. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.